True story. As a 12-year-old kid, I remember the day like it was yesterday. It was a Saturday morning, and my mother had been coughing nonstop all night. She had been in the bed, too weak to get up. That morning, I began taking care of my 6-year-old sister when I heard my mother struggling to get to the bathroom next door. It was just the three of us in the house, so, besides the television volume filling the air, it was quiet. Some time had went by when I suddenly heard a very faint whisper of what I could have sworn was my name. I shook it off because I didn't hear it again. Several minutes later, there it was once more, and it definitely sounded like my mom calling me from the bathroom. I had never heard my mom's voice sound so faint in all of my life, so panic instantly rushed in as I ran to the bathroom. I heard nothing but gurgling coughs, and I will never forget the vision I saw as I pushed the door open forcefully, as if something was pushing it back. As the door opened, I saw my mom laid out on the floor covered in blood. There was blood everywhere. The sink and toilet floor and walls all painted red. I froze. By that time, I could hear the footsteps of my little sister come our way, so I shouted for her to stop and go watch TV as I shut the bathroom door behind me. My mom was conscious but could not move a muscle. I frighteningly asked her, "What do you want me to do?" She asked me to help her get back to bed and to call her sister Rose to come over to the house. It took all of the little strength in my body to pick her up off the floor and literally carry her back to her bedroom. I was too afraid to cry. I took the telephone with the very long cord into the front living room and started to dial. Hands shaking, I remembered she wanted me to dial my aunt's number, and I thought I did, until the voice joined me on the line. 911, what's your emergency? After hanging up that call, I then called my aunt. Believe it or not, my aunt got to the house before the ambulance did. Long story short, turns out my mom had chronic pulmonary fibrosis disease, and even though they sent my family home from the hospital to start preparing my mom's funeral, I'm blessed to say she is still here 36 years later. But that's not it. My mom had been on the donor list for a double lung transplant for quite some time but couldn't quite qualify. Both her lungs were in terrible shape, and she should have been on a ventilator all of these years, so physically, she qualified for the transplant with flying colors. But she didn't get picked because, although her lung condition qualified, the way she moved around didn't. I'm pretty sure it was the Lord sustaining her and her lungs all these decades, allowing her to live as though she has 80% capacity, even though she was actually only operating on 30% lung capacity. She is a walking miracle, and God is good. In the last quarter of last year, we noticed my mom beginning to change with erratic behavior and noticed her health declining. One day her body got very weak and we had to rush her to the hospital. As soon as they tested her, they came out and told us they need to get her into the operating room now and prep her for brain surgery. Turns out cancer had developed in her lungs and traveled to her brain, creating a large cancerous brain tumor. Long story short, after 2 brain surgeries, cancer in both lungs and brain, and chronic pulmonary fibrosis disease, I can say God is still working and Martha Hunt is a survivor.